Aloha, friends and neighbors. Rollin Frost here, Kona astrologer, and I'm about to do show 1144 for you. We're going to cover the first week in November, and I think I better get this show out of the way because things aren't getting better for me. Anyway, this is going to be kind of a serious show, but I got some helpful health hints for you after we do the sky mirror. So let's get started. What's it look like? Here's the chart. Oh, there's a new moon coming up November 7th at 15 Scorpio, trines Neptune. It's in a water sign in Scorpio, trining Neptune. It's a planting moon, you know, especially if you're planting herbs or things of that nature. It's a great one. The window for the hurricane also stops about the 7th of November. So it went from October 24th through November 7th. What else is happening? Hope you get out of that 2-week window without, losing too much to the wind. Mars is trining Venus, so it's going to get social and sexy and romantic. And the Sun is trining Neptune, which means it's going to become inspirational. Of course, Venus slows down and stops on the 16th. Something to circle on your calendar. That's a Friday, I think, ruled by Venus. What we got right now is sort of interesting because when you look at the chart, we've got Venus here, and it's opposing Uranus. Now, we had a full moon on Uranus, and so Uranus is raging. It's interrupting everything, and it's interrupting Venus too. So I made a joke. It used to be this thing we called coitus interruptus, some method of birth control, and you're gonna see some of that. Yes. The other thing about having Uranus oppose Venus is Uranus is hurricanes. Venus is pretty places. For instance, Hawaii and Florida are pretty places. So it isn't just going to interrupt your sex life. It could be harmful to people in Florida and in Hawaii. From Uranus. Who is Uranus? Well, it's the earthquakes, and it's the hurricanes and the tornadoes, the things that go around, cut off your power. You can see the Sun is not happy with it. No, especially because it's attacking Venus. Poor Venus. So let's take a look at it day by day. Hopefully Mars will be... Well, Mars doesn't hit the trine to Venus until the end of your next week. So it'll get increasingly romantic, and Romeo will help out Juliet more and more as you get in a week, 9-10 days from now. The Sun trines Neptune in 4 or 5 days, and that's a nice spiritual time. Yep. But there is a square to Mercury. Well, let's see. Never mind. Let's look at it day by day. The moon runs around the edge of this planetary pattern. These are the players, the actors, like Shakespeare said, on stage. And as the moon goes around once a month, it makes these angles to things. The long blue line is a trine, 120 degrees, or the short dotted line, a sextile, 60 degrees. That means these guys are working together. It's nice. Yeah, they work together nice. Of course, if you turn them at another angle, 90 degrees, there's a square. Uh-oh. There's Mercury at your end of next week squaring Neptune. Going to be confusing. Or an opposition, 180 degrees. These are all multiples of 30. 30, 60, 90, 180, 150. It's pretty simple geometry. It's not difficult math to learn. You get used to them pretty easily. And in fact, here's a hint to you if you're going to learn a little astrology. The zodiac signs are set up to tell you whether it's a square or a trine. And once you learn the zodiac signs, you find out that the earth signs, for instance, here's Virgo and Capricorn, are in trine. And they both trine Taurus. Yes. And water and earth signs are always in sextile. So you learn your signs by saying earth, air, fire, water, and then whether they're cardinal, mutable, or fixed. And those are the keys to spotting these angles really quickly. Because you can't go around counting degrees here. It'll take forever. To do decent astrology, you got to be able to look at it and say, oh, that's a square, that's a trine. And the key is these zodiac signs. Yep. I mean, when you see here the sun's in Scorpio, you know that it's trining anything in Pisces and in Cancer. So learning the zodiac signs is a simple, easy way to start spotting these squares and trines. And so you always start there. You got to memorize the zodiacs and whether each one is. See, I color them. Here's a blue is a water sign, red is a fire sign. You know, charcoal is earth sign, white is an air sign. So it's water, fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air. Anyway, that's where you start. And that's what the zodiacs are all for. Not what you thought, huh? Okay, so the moon takes about 2.5 days to go through one zodiac sign. And it's been going through Leo. If you're here on Thursday watching the show, it changed, went into Virgo about dinner time. And it's been in Leo for a few days. And there's a nice little spot here where we have Uranus and Venus, but they're the opposition. The moon sextiles one and trines the other. So the interruption could be romantic even. Yes, that's Thursday afternoon. A lot of bickering though. You know, we got the square to Mercury here, and that shows up late Thursday night. On Friday, the moon's in Virgo. This whole section here is all Virgo. And right away, we see there's a trine to Saturn. All right, you're getting organized Friday morning. And then there's a sextile to the sun in Scorpio in the middle of the day. Got ambition, huh? Good for you. But here is opposition to Neptune. You know, that's like 8, 9, 10 o'clock on Friday night. Confusion. Moon opposing Neptune Friday night. Not a good time for booze. Saturday, on the 3rd, the moon's still in Virgo. Starts with discovery in the morning. Nice trine to Pluto, huh? That's kind of nice. And after that, there's a bunch of truth and wisdom coming up when the moon hits Jupiter, which is just about to run into, I think it's in Sag here. Let's see. Well, it's right on the edge between Scorpio and Libra, the moon, so it's sextiling Jupiter, and it's right on the edge between Scorpio and Sag. So might be your last chance here to do some Scorpio kind of work, truth and wisdom. And as soon as the moon shifts into Libra, you're in the last of the hurricane zone, because here's all those lunations. Yeah, and here's a square to Saturn Sunday morning. Uh-oh. The last window for the Hawaii hurricane. And it's basically Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And yes, here's a square to the new moon early Monday morning. And around past breakfast, a square to Pluto, panicky. And here's people out trying to fix things Monday afternoon. But whatever your plans are for pleasure Monday night, Uranus is opposing it. And you try to have a party and the power is going to go out. You know, this is interruption of pleasures and peace and quiet due to Uranus. So that sounds like a hurricane to me. Monday night the 5th. Still got Tuesday to go through. Early Tuesday morning, moon's opposing Uranus. Here's more problems with wind. It tends to settle down a bit Tuesday afternoon when the moon sextiles Saturn. So that might be the end of the window, is the middle of the day, Tuesday, November 6th. So I hope you got through it all. I know Kauai is suffering a lot, and maybe me too. Anyway, Tuesday the moon's in Scorpio. In the middle of the day, that sextile to Saturn settles things down. And then at the end of Tuesday, around just after dinner, the moon trines Neptune. And there's some inspiration. And you're going into that full moon, which is at 15 degrees, right about here. Let's see. 10, 15, oh, it's here. So here's the new moon. It's Wednesday morning, the 7th, and it trines Neptune. Good planting moon, good for inspiration, good for talking to spirit. You have to talk out loud to spirit, you know. You can't just talk in your head if you're going to pray. You say out loud the words. Here's a sextile to Pluto. Just after lunch, Wednesday the 7th, there's discovery. That's nice. But late Wednesday night, there's midnight. You know, here's a square to Mars. And people are ticked off and they're rushing around, and this is not a real easy time. But here's Jupiter Thursday morning at the end of Scorpio. And Thursday morning you'll have a lot of, aha, now I see it clear. Oh boy, a lot of clarity here. Probably some Scorpio clarity too. Not a bad start for Thursday. Mercury's here Thursday afternoon and evening. So there's a lot of talking and walking and moving and communicating. Kind of nice. Doesn't change till you get to Friday morning on the 9th. And here's a square to Neptune. Here's confusion and delusion. Here's lost something. I'm losing things. You know, I find my words. Sometimes I can't think of a word. And little things get misplaced easily. Just let go. If you're caught in a Neptune square and you've lost it, you have to find a way to give it up. That's a trine or a sextile. Oh, I didn't need that anyway. Bang, you look around there, it'll be. Friday, moon in Sagittarius. Saturday, the moon's still in Sagittarius. And here in the middle of Saturday, there's a nice sextile to Venus and a trine to Uranus. And here's some brotherhood that could turn into real affection and sexiness. You know, here's the moon is answering that opposition. You don't have to interrupt your pleasures. No. So things have calmed down considerably here on Saturday the 10th. Got to be a little careful. Sunday morning, the moon is in Capricorn, and it goes by Saturn. And that's no fun. No. Saturn is getting me down pretty bad. Don't mind telling you. Saturn is on my ruling planet. And my inner world is pretty dark right now. And I just found myself going out there and helping neighbors who were injuring themselves with fine dust and things. And I had to be responsible because I knew about it. With knowledge comes responsibility. Inspiration Sunday night on the 11th of November, a nice sextile to Neptune. And Monday, when you get up, there's a sextile to the Sun and a conjunction to Pluto, and you're decisive, and you know what you're doing, and it feels pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah. And now let me tell you a story about fine dust. Maybe several stories. Hang on to your hat. I've showed you this handout about ladies who take their little babies out and for a little run or a walk along the street. And This one's faded a bit. But you can see the little baby here in the carriage. Cough, cough, because here's a car. Remember my story about the newspaper boys and girls? Well, it happens all the time. The thing is, a lot of the dust that comes up off of automobiles as they go by, especially on the downwind side of the street, you can't see it. No, because when dust is very fine and gets down below like 1 micron in size, that's about the size of cigarette smoke, you can't see it anymore. And that's what happened to me yesterday morning and today. Is one of my neighbors has a swimming pool and decided that they were going to refinish the pool. And when I heard the zzz, I get suspicious right away. Somebody's grinding at high speed, or sandblasting is what it was. So they're sandblasting the interior of this swimming pool. And what you could see was this cloud that looked like smoke, of dust. And it was, it was maybe 50 yards long, and then it kind of dissolved, faded away, the dust did. Thankfully, it wasn't going towards my house, it was going south. But I knew that this dust that these guys were generating didn't disappear here, no. It just got small, and you couldn't see it. It got more dispersed. Looked like it disappeared, but take, for instance, cigarette smoke. When you see it in a room or somebody, it disappears. The guys that use the vaping, the little cloud comes out and it disappears. It didn't disappear. It's still in the air. You can smell it. When you can smell it, anything you smell means there's little particles in the air, little teeny particles. And your nose is smelling them even though you can't see them. So I went up there and I talked to the guys doing it, and they showed me they were wearing OSHA-approved masks. But all these people downwind, they didn't have masks. They didn't even know it was going on. Any babies down there? Asthma for the rest of their lives. In fact, a lot of that dust cloud is full of silica and stuff that would give people lung cancer 20 years later. A lot of this thing with dust comes up 20 years later. Turns out Hawaii is the worst in the nation for asthma and lung problems. Yes, the worst. Why is that anyway? Well, one reason is because people are ignorant of what they're doing with this dust. And when I was doing the health department on Kauai, I found it was also because of burning. And one story is, up in Kalaheo, there was a baby who wouldn't stop coughing, and the mother called the health department and got me. I went out to investigate, and it turned out that if this was the intersection, the lady's house was here, the baby had a broom back here, and there was a vacant lot around there. Couldn't figure out what was going on. I walked around there all afternoon. Went back the next day, and I could smell a little smoke, so I went over here, across the street. Right here, there was a wall. And that wall, I was kind of curious. So I jumped up and looked over the wall, and right down in here was a fire. And there was an old magazine, the shiny kind with plastic pages, and an old coffee mug that was made out of plastic, still smoldering. And the wind was blowing it over the wall, across the street, through the vacant lot, right into that baby's open window. And the baby wouldn't stop coughing. And the doctor said, it's not something in the baby, it's something in the environment. So they called me. So when I saw this, I went and knocked on the door. It was a Filipino man, an older guy. And I started to explain what the problem was. He didn't buy it. He didn't think that was possible. Well, I took him over across the lot. I told him about the baby. Still, I'm not doing that. No, you can't see any smoke over there. Can't even smell the plastic, burned plastic. and you get some really nasty things. So upshot was, I spent almost a whole day with this old Filipino man. Turns out the Filipinos, there's no burn laws on Kauai, and the Filipinos have a tradition in their family. The guy comes home from work, he goes in the kitchen, gets the bag of trash, takes it out in the backyard, puts it in usually a 50-gallon drum, and burns a little fire and burns the trash. And he's got a can of cold beer in his hand and stands there and prods the fire burning the trash. So that's your after work thing for a lot of Filipinos, a traditional. Of course, that's fine if all you're burning is wood and paper, at least brown paper, but now most of the packaging is plastic and it's covered with ink. None of those inks have been passed on by anybody. Most of the ink that's out there, OSHA early on found most of the carcinogens were ink, red number 8, blue number 10, and they went after it for a little while, but I mean, nobody figures it's going to wind up in your body, that somebody's going to burn that plastic packaging, that plastic coffee mug, that woman's magazine, Mademoiselle, with the plastic pages, burn it, put it up in the air, and go across the street and get to that little baby's lungs. But there it was, and it happened. And I went back to see the guy a day or two later to see if he understood, and he got converted. He said he's going around to all his neighbors now and telling them to stop burning their trash, because it's not innocuous trash anymore. It's toxic trash. So that was my introduction to ignorant people putting small particles into the air and hurting folks. Next thing that happened was, Aniki came along, and I was working at the health department, but the guys in the health department didn't know anything about this. They were sanitarians. They had degrees in sanitation. They knew about what temperature, you had to keep your food at, and that was about it. So they didn't do any particle work. And I had been sent over there by the head of the health department to kind of clean up the Kauai health department, which was a few old Japanesey guys sitting at desk doing as little as possible. When I started doing things, it scared them. It scared them a lot. Anyway, Aniki came along, trashed the island. Oh boy, now we had all these old plantation cabins out there. You know what? They're full of asbestos. Yes, those old plantation cabins. The little wiring inside had had two wires with little poles on them, and the black insulation on those wires was pure asbestos. You've seen that old-fashioned kind of wiring, huh? Yeah. It's in all the old cabins. Of course, when Aniki trashed the cabin, all that asbestos was there. And then it turned out all the paint that they painted these plantation cabins with was high lead. They used bottom paint, that on a boat, that they use that red paint so things don't grow on the boat. Well, that's red lead paint, 50% lead, and if you burn it and little babies breathe it, the IQ goes straight down, can't be fixed. So you don't want lead being burned. Now what happened on Kauai was, because everybody was ignorant of this, and the mayor would not listen to me. I sat outside her office, for 2 days, and she wouldn't really even talk to me about it. And they sent out all these guys to clean up. They bulldozed over these old plantation cabins, and they'd pick it up with a backhoe and throw it in a truck. And they took it over by Kapa'a, and up by Lahui, and made big, enormous piles of this wreckage. And then, damn, they set it on fire. They were just going to burn it. Now, I was out of the health department. I wasn't going to work for them anymore. And so I went to the newspapers, and they listened. And every day, I had front page. Please, Mrs. Mayor, stop the burning. And then I'd explain in the text what lead was all about, what happened to your baby, or asbestos, or Paris green, which is arsenic trioxide, and 100% carcinogenic. It's all over these old cabins. And at least I wanted the guys who were wrecking the cabins to work wet and to wear some masks. So I ordered masks from my friends that did that sort of thing in Honolulu. They sent 4 cases of masks over, but the mayor would not pay for them. They sat on the dock and they weren't accepted. And all the guys that did that work weren't told to work wet and wear the masks. And so they all got polluted by asbestos and by lead and by Paris green. And of course, you know, a lot of this stuff you don't hear about until 10, 15 years later. And then they all got the lung cancer. Nobody's measuring and tracking it. Sandblasting a swimming pool. Woo-hoo. Polluting all their neighbors. Listen, folks, it's a joke. Your health department is not watching the store. Neither is OSHA. They're a joke. They think VOG is bad. There's no experts here taking care of you and taking care of your health. And they don't even educate you. A good example is leaf blowers. I mean, I made a little commercial once and said, if you wouldn't eat it, don't breathe it. And leaf blowers are some of the worst. That shows how ignorant the people are in Hawaii. And in the U.S., I've seen guys go around and lay down pesticides, spray pesticides all around the house. And right behind them is a guy with a leaf blower. He blows it all up in the air and they all breathe it. They don't even know it. So the public health is gone. There's nobody watching the store. When the unions went, public health went. When Republicans came in a few decades ago. You got to do it yourself. You got to do it yourself, folks. You're the only one that's going to protect your lungs from these people making dust. They're ignorant. They don't know. You got to do it yourself. That's the tough part. Yeah. I mean, we can't even get the women to stop poisoning their babies, much less the workers. There's no OSHA presence here. No. So, learn about it yourself. Do it yourself. That's the only way to go. Folks, I'm starving. I need a donation. 776473 Princess K. Likolani Kona 96740. Come on, put a little check in the mail for me, okay?